Hello, this is the flowchart that shows a series of if, else, if statements, and we are going to take the Coral code that accompanies this and convert it into Java. The environment we're going to work in is Visual Studio Code in the Xylabs. You may or may not be working in this environment, but the coding will be the same no matter what. In this environment, I like to close this Explorer window. You can see I have, if you have some executions of code and it runs down here, it's a good idea to clean up your terminal and say clear terminal. And you might also notice that there is a funny looking X colon in front of the string here. If that happens to you, you can go to settings. If you have access to change these, you might not. You want to search for inlay. There's a long list of options that you can change. I would recommend that you not change many of these. Be really cautious about changing some of these. I'm going to turn that off. It's called an inlay hint. It's an advanced programming feature we're not going to use, and then that disappears. The Coral code over here on the right hand side is what we are going to recreate in Java, and I am just going to start to type out my Java. So I'm going to declare a variable called number of years, and then I am going to get number of years from the keyboard, except in order to do that I need a scanner. I need an input. I call it in, and I'm going to do next int, but I'm going to start to get some error messages because I don't have an input set up here. I don't have a scanner. So I'm going to delete my print line here, and I'm going to create a scanner. I'm going to call it in. It's going to be a new scanner, and then we're going to do system.in, which means it's going to look for input from the keyboard. Now, a couple of things here. You notice that it is has some error lines, the squiggly red lines. If I hover over that, it says view the problem, which is a F8, or do a quick fix. I'm on a Mac, so it's a command period. So whatever you're on, I'm going to do command period, and then it says, oh, you could import the scanner, and then it will do that for me. That's a little an example of what we call IntelliSense that you can use in this environment. So again, I'm going to hover over that. I got two options. I can view the problem, or I can go to quick fix. If I click on quick fix, it also will let me do import scanner there. So that takes care of the scanner. And now I have another squiggly line here, and it's going to tell me that that variable is not probably, it's not used yet. So, and or it might say that it's not initialized. I have a habit of initializing my variables no matter what. So I'm going to initialize that to 0, but it doesn't like it because we're not using that variable yet. So number of years is going to be get the next input. And then we're going to start with our if statements, and we're going to convert this code over here on the right that's in Coral to Java. If I highlight this code and I copy it over and paste it in, we got a couple of things going on. It adds in some special end-of-line characters, which is it's kind of interesting that it shows us this, because this shows us what we call hidden characters, which you don't want in your code. So you want to make sure that you delete all of those out. And this is also another good reason why you probably just shouldn't do that copy and paste. I just wanted to do that to show you that you've got that option there. You are going to have to switch up several things. I want to add my parentheses for my Java syntax. Also in Java, we have the beginning curly brace and the ending curly brace, and then our output statement, instead of put, we're going to use a print line. Well, I can do the print ln and get my shortcut and then type newlyweds if the number of years is 1. And so in order to convert from Coral to Java, we've got to do a few things when we're using the if statement. Number 1, you add parentheses around the if. Number 2, instead of a put to output, you'll use system.out.println, and then whatever you want to output, you will put inside quotes there. The else part is also going to be a little bit different. On the else, you cannot run the else if together like you do in Coral. It will be else followed by an if and then a parentheses and then your next condition that you're going to test for. And so you will continue like this to finish out the rest of that code. So we've got the rest of the code written out, and the very last statement is outside of the if else if structure. So that's just going to be a print line that stands on its own, and that's going to say bye when it's all done. And then if we look back at our code, we do have a few more errors or some squiggly lines. So if I hover over the in here, it's telling me that I have a resource leak. It says in is never closed. So whenever you use the scanner, remember that you have to close it. So I'm going to do in.close. And this should then be our program. So let's go ahead and execute it and see if it runs. And it's going to be waiting for me to type in a number. So I'm going to test the branch for 1. It says newlyweds. So you should check all your branches when you are doing your debugging and etc. The other thing I want to mention is when you are using an if else if statement like this, because we have one line of code, you technically don't need the curly braces, but I'm going to recommend that you add or use the curly braces because it helps prevent logic errors down the road. For example, if we decided that we needed to add something in here, and so if the years is 1 and they're newlyweds, then maybe we need to increment the number of years, for example. If I were changing my code, and I maybe put this in a loop and we were executing several years, then I have 2 lines of code within my if statement, and then I must have the curly braces, but many times people forget to put them in. So I'm going to tell you to always include them from the beginning. And that is going to be it. That is our code created from Coral, converted to Java, using an if else if structure, and then we have the trailing else at the end, which is the statement that gets printed if all of the other ones fail.